all of the captures on this screen right now were created using a special camera called the PortalCam. It's a purpose-built camera for Gaussian splatting created by XGRIDS. And me, being a Gaussian splat fanatic, had to eventually get my hands on this and give it a try. So of course, I finally got one. I want you to know this is not a sponsored post. They are not paying me to do this. This is just my first impressions. And I want to tell you why I think this camera is useful and what I would use it for. And again, this is $5,000. This is not cheap, but in the world of 3D scanning, this is a heck of a deal. But I wouldn't buy this for everything. And in some cases, I wouldn't think twice about buying this. So with that, let's jump into my first impressions and see what this can do. First, I wanted to start with the camera and the form factor. You can see that there is what, 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras, and this is not a camera. I mean, you might think it is, but this is actually a LiDAR unit. So this is sending out laser pulses, which are really cool. And then it reflects back and it's able to then measure the time of flight between those pulses. And with that, then we can get really good data on like where the walls are around me. And why that's important is when I'm walking around a room like the one I'm in, I got these blank walls like right there. And this can do a good job at figuring out where that blank wall is. But when you use what's called structure from motion, photogrammetry, all the ways that we create a Gaussian splat scene with just standard cameras, it has to go off of visual cues to figure out where the surface is. It needs texture. It needs all sorts of originality in different parts of the walls so it can say, I know where that part of the wall is. However, with this, instead of being a passive sensor where it just takes in light, it sends out a light, bounces, comes back, and then can tell us where that wall is. Now, this is not the same LiDAR sensor that you would have in a TLS, which is a high-grade professional scanner that you want to do for, I don't know, survey work. But this is a SLAM scanner. These are supposed to be fast. They're not as accurate. And this one specifically isn't even, I believe, as accurate as some of the other XGRIDS scanners. They have incredible good scanners, but this one is tailored for Gaussian splatting. And you don't need the most perfect 3D reconstruction of the scene to get a good training. But I think it's interesting. You have, I don't even know why we have 2 cameras here. There's something here that is a little, like we don't know how they work this. But because you have those 2 cameras, I don't know, it does some probably parallax. And then these cameras, they may be a little bigger on the side than in the front. I don't know. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you got this great scanner. It has this really nice kind of like, it clicks out bottom. And then I can like put it down on a table when I'm working with it. And then it has this guy on the back, which is removable. But this is what holds my iPhone. And like that. And now I'm able to walk around and scan a scene. And here's my like interface and my scanner. Super simple. This actually, they'd say you're supposed to take the case off, but I have such a strong magnetic case, it does fine. So that's it. It's actually kind of heavy. It can scan up to an hour, which I don't think I've ever been somewhere large enough to do it in an hour. But an hour of holding this would get a little tiring, but I would do it. And then it has this nice removable battery. If I just click there's your battery. You can actually plug this battery in via a USB-C that it comes with and charge it up, not in this device, which is nice because let's say you have multiple batteries, you can be charging one and not have to have this thing plugged into the wall while you're perhaps doing the rest of your job. Get that back in there. And then you have this nice USB port on the side, trying to do this reverse. That's where you can connect it to your computer, get the files off, things like that. There's even a button here that like context of the button changes things. But I don't need to go too much over the hardware. Just know it's nice. This actually can be removed, which is actually nice as well, because then I could put like a long pole on it if I really wanted to get this thing really high up in the sky. So that it's a really nice, solid built piece of kit. And it does come in this nice case. If you go to the website, you can see all that. There's nothing special. So there's the hardware. And so really what matters is what you get out of it. But I want to share kind of like 3 different ways I've used it. And at the end of that, we will definitely know where I believe this is why I would spend $5,000 on this scanner and then continue to pay for whatever subscription services after that, because there is a lot of value here that you're going to get that you're not going to get with using your iPhone or even a high-end camera. So that I'm going to jump onto my computer and we're going to look at the scanning software interface. I can show you that, and then I'm going to show you the results I get out of it on the first scene. So here's XGRIDS processing platform. At the time I am posting this, they had mentioned they're doing a trial of a cloud-based platform, but just know that when you're processing the data, you are doing it locally. So if you buy this camera, you still have to have a decent computer. Now, most people I know who are buying a camera like this most likely already has a CUDA accelerated nice GPU on a decent computer, but just know that. And so you have this nice looking screen. And of course, there's this called Portal, which I don't know what this is yet. I think this is like a project. And then there's My Captures. They have like all your data, pending, models generated. So you can actually like throw a job in here and haven't processed it yet, but you can get it all set up and do it later. And so it might say pending. And so then I have this. Okay, so I got this in here. And I want to show you what it's like to set up a scan and just how nice I thought this interface was. So you just go down to the bottom, hit create. Super easy. Space model editing. Still don't know what that means yet. Again, I haven't dove into everything. This is just first things. First thing I noticed as well, there is some of these premium features. I just have the basic license. So again, I'm not going into this yet. And then you basically will pull the data off this camera onto your hard drive, and then I'm gonna then go just find one of these. So I have like a repository of a bunch of scans I've done called PortalCam. So I got my models, and I'll just pick like this Broadway coffee house here. It says estimated RAM, so it's gonna use for this one. It's gonna use looks like 13 gig. I don't know. I don't know if this is let's see here. RAM's okay. So basically tells you if you're gonna run out of RAM. No matter what, RAM's always critical in these. And then I'm going to give it a name. So I could call this like coffee house scan, like so. It knows the ground data it's already detected off of what I gave it. And then there's some parameters. So you want fast, standard, slow. All these have these little things where you can say, what does this mean? So less time resources, slightly lower texture. Of course, I'm always going for slow. And I found that slow is about the same speed as I'm used to with 3D reconstruction in these Gaussian splats. So although maybe you do need like just a fast render, slow is not on my, at least this GPU, taking a long time. And then your video limit, I think this is interesting. Maybe that's so you can do other things while you're running this, but also maybe you don't have a good enough GPU. So I have no idea if this is hard-coded. I have not paid attention. I have 48 gigs in my workstation, and I have not actually paid attention to see if this goes up higher. But I always put it to 24 gigs, and I usually don't do anything else on this PC while it's running. Then this portability. Portability it's like says compressed, enhanced, smoothness. Basically, do you want it like better for mobile, or do you want it like highest quality possible? One caveat here: the first scan I ever did, I said portable. I'm like, oh, that sounds great, smaller, easier to share, things like that. But then I went to export that scene for throwing into Isaac Sim so I could do some simulation in that environment. And if portability is on, then you cannot export it as a file type that is USDZ for Isaac Sim. So just know that, turn that off if you want but you also want the best quality anyways if you're probably doing a simulation. So just a little bit of caveat there. And then low memory reconstruction. I'm guessing this just pushes stuff off to your system RAM. I've seen this as well. It does change the amount of RAM needed. That just means they're probably holding less imagery, less data in your GPU and offloading. So it probably slows things down. Of course, I keep this off. I have lots of RAM. It's interesting though, because this says 64 gigabytes of RAM. That's like my PC RAM, not my GPU RAM. So I guess I really don't understand how all this all works, but it doesn't matter. You can just kind of balance what you need to fit to your system. And so with that, then I'll hit like start. And then this really threw me off. So I hit start and I was like, oh great, it's not processing. I realized you have to click to process. So that's where you end up with your pending and then the ones that are actually done. When you hit click to process, it'll start processing. And at the same time, you will also get like this thumbnail, which you can change later to know which one it is. Okay, so let's jump to the first test. So the first test, I pulled this darn camera out of the box. I thought, screw it, I'm gonna skip all of the fun tutorials they have, and I'm just gonna see if I can nail this thing out of the box to see how easy it is. And it worked. I did some mistakes, but let's look at that result. So that would be my front porch, and I think I have scanned this porch in my kitchen so many times. It's a great test for me because I know what I can get out of it. So here it is. This is my front porch of my house. I did it back, let's here. It was just after Halloween. The weather was decent. It was low sun in the sky, so you could see how like everything was kind of like overexposed. But also in the app, you get to choose between portrait mode, night mode, indoor mode. There was another one. There was nature mode. And I thought, this ain't nature. I thought nature would be like a forest or like you're trying to capture outdoor nature. I picked indoor mode, and I think that may have caused a little bit of issues with the look of this. But even so, look how good it is. And I was really impressed, and I want to show you. If I go to settings, I can go to my scan path, and you can see how little I did, where I basically just kind of walked up, around, through here, over here, and just did this quick walk. I think I spent maybe, I don't know, maybe a minute, probably 30 seconds taking all this. I even came all the way over here so I could get like a little bit more of the side of my house. And what I loved is that like it got everything behind me, because there was points where I was walking back like this, and I didn't even think about focusing in this direction, and it did a pretty good job. And I bet it would have been even better had I really focused on looking at all directions. So I'd say this is a really good first test. You can easily move around. You can do some, I believe, some measurements. There's like a measure tool. So like I can measure the length of my columns. I thought the measurements were pretty darn good. So you get these kind of measurements. I have not gone to verify the measurement lengths, but they are pretty darn good. They've got to be pretty darn close. They also have like this, like I think pro measurement, even an area measurement tool. So like the area of my door, which I think, again, these are like where these tools become really interesting for AEC, home design, things like that. I don't know how to get the stop. There we go. And so you can get like the area of my door. These are all really rational. These are all really good. I don't know how to there we go. Let me get this out. I can add notes, things like that. So they have this nice thing where you can add annotations, notes like that. And why you care about that is you can eventually go share. You can even create a model fly through, which again, I have not played with this. This is like, I would say beyond first impressions, but I could do a fly through this. And this reminds me of like post shots fly through, which I actually really struggle with, but I will get that. And notice that there is this black area here. Well, that was all occluded. I can try to fix that. You even have this skybox. So I can put a skybox in there. And now like this sky is a little bit fixed, but it can do some weird things. You can figure out, oh, here we go. Blue hour. That one looks pretty darn good. So you can do things to try to fix that. But do know I had clouds here. So now these trees look interesting. So what I probably need to do is just find the right skybox. Maybe it was overcast. So you can play with things and get kind of this immersive scene that you like. But my initial impressions is out of the box, this worked really well. I can't quite read the text on some things, but I don't remember like trying to get in close on those texts. I can read the numbers on my house. It was pretty big. And I'm happy with this. So does this work out of the box without any training? Yeah, I think you could nail it. I later learned I should have done like high and low scans, because if I come low, things get crazy. If I go too high, things get crazy. So I should have varied the kind of the elevation of this. I should have walked around these a little bit more. I didn't, but even then, I got pretty good results. Timeout. If you're interested in learning more about the science behind PortalCam, then today's video sponsor, Brilliant, is the perfect learning platform for you. I generally believe you're already smart enough to understand how 3D reconstruction works. You just need to learn it the right way. That's what Brilliant does differently. Instead of these passive videos where you memorize formulas and you look at all these math slides, you actually do problem solving. You get your hands on interactive lessons that builds real intuition. And what I love is to have this great app, and in just 15 minutes a day, Brilliant transforms the way you think about math and science. The concepts behind the technologies like PortalCam, geometry, algorithms, data structures, they suddenly click because you're working through them visually step by step. Think of it like a video game where you get to complete all these mini courses, which science have shown is a better way to learn than your standard lecture. And I'm especially into their computer science and programming courses. They're not just about syntax and how you type this out. They teach you how to think like a developer, structure your logic, ensure correctness, optimize for efficiency, so you learn how to write code correctly. And if you want to understand the math powering AI and computer vision, their How AI Works course is perfect for that. Whether you're a student building foundations or a vibe coder who wants to level up with actual computer science principles, Brilliant meets you where you are. To learn for free on Brilliant for a full 30 days, go to brilliant.org/pixelreconstruct, scan the QR code on the screen, or click the link in the description. Brilliant also gives our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. I want to thank Brilliant again for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to my scans with the PortalCam. Okay, so now my second scan, I wanted to test out the portrait mode. That is a fairly new mode, and I thought it was fun. I don't really know the purpose of it besides just having fun and maybe getting an immersive portrait of, like, I don't know, your friend, your kids, your spouse. But I did two different scenes and I found out kind of like two different things for it. So I'm going to show you my first one. This one is my my good friend Florian. We were at NeurIPS conference and he luckily let me do a nice scan of him. So again, I'm in this viewer. One thing I didn't mention that last thing is there's actually collisions. So as I'm moving around, I can't move through these TVs. But beside the point, I scan Florian. And if I pull up the settings, turn on my scanning path, like so, you can see that I kind of like did several loops around him and varied the height. The first thing I noticed is that his face is a little soft, but the rest of his clothes look like much more detailed. So let me turn off this scan path, and you can see like his jacket looks really good, especially as I come back a little bit, but his face, not great. Well, I started the scan about here, and I walked around a loop, probably a little further out, and I got scan him, but then I did the top last, and so I thought maybe that has something to do with it. And of course, someone gave me a hot tip that you should start with the face and then move your way down, because I think maybe as you move around the slam, like the scanner loses its perfect positioning as you go further, and so maybe heavy end's getting good scan data at the start. So I'm going to show my next scan and see what that looks like. But before I jump out of here, I do notice that like it got the areas around him really good. But if they get further out, they do get fuzzy, like back in here. That has to do, I believe, with the range of the scanner. So this scanner has like a 10-meter range. And so if I never, and he's occluded here, if I never really got a good view back here and it's beyond 10 meters, I just think that the point cloud was too sparse. And I can even kind of look at that. You can actually go change your mode and get this point cloud. And you can see the point cloud back there is kind of sparse. You can get the point cloud all around. But the stuff that is much closer, I think it pulls more detail on, which is interesting. So may have been hard to see that point cloud on my screen, but if you had my big monitor, you would have that. And so overall, I think this mode's kind of fun, but I want to see if I got better results. So I'm going to get scan 2. So scan 2 was my friend Alec. Again, I was showing him this for the very first time, and he was blown away by it. But I started by putting my device right here on this table, got it initialized, and then immediately started scanning around his head. Again, did the loops. Let me show you the path. We go to this scanning path. I took a lot of time, and I did 3 loops. So you can see here, I started with the scanner, went high right to around his head, and made sure I got his head really good, moved really slow, moved all around. Despite that, I don't know if it's just humans can't stay still enough when they're breathing, but there's always just this kind of fuzzy component. And that's something I'm going to reach out to XGRIDS to get a little bit more guidance on. So I wouldn't say it doesn't work. I just say maybe I don't know how to work it. So if I get rid of this scanning path, like so, you can see again, it did an all right job, but his like jacket, his pants, all that turned out beautiful. Did a really good job. And it did a really good job at capturing the context of the area he's in. Again, I kept the whole time, I kept the front of this camera focused on him. So everything around us was basically the sides of the scanner. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like a 360 scanner. So even if I'm not looking over here ever, it's capturing over there because I have this 360 scanner. So did a pretty cool job. I think it's interesting. Even got like this window. I don't know why it got through the window there and turned frosty up above, but that's how it captured it. And I still have the collisions. You can turn those off, by the way, in, again, settings. So you can turn off the collisions and you can start moving through walls. But I like how it keeps you inside. You know, so this was a fun setting. I probably will do more portraits in the future, especially of like group photos at conferences with people. It could be a really fun way to remember some of these events. But I don't know. I don't know how useful this is. I wouldn't spend the money on the scanner just for this feature, obviously. I think that this is more of a interesting, fun feature and not the bread and butter of this product. All right, so now let's get to where I think this camera shines and why personally anyone who wants to spend money on the scanner should spend it for this one reason. And that's, I want to capture large, complex indoor scenes. They're really hard. I want to capture the room I'm in, which I'm going to show you the capture of this room and the rest of my upstairs, or some of the rooms upstairs. It's really tough. I actually have, I'll show you on this camera, I have this is my home office. You get to see my bed, which is taking up room in the room. So I have to figure out, how do I like walk around this when I'm capturing 2D images from my phone? And even worse are the doorways. When I have a doorway and I'm walking through a doorway with structure from motion, I need a photo here, here, here. I need like multiple photos. You'll have to reference the same part of the scene. When I get to a doorway, what happens is you have like this major occlusion. You have this confined area. So as I walk through there, I have all these images of this room, but when I get through that doorway, all of a sudden, all those images of this room cannot be seen from like the hallway or the next room. And you basically cleave off everything that you saw. So you have to be really smart on how you capture moving from room to room. You literally have to like capture images in one room and then go to the next room and try to capture images of the room you were just in from your room that you're in. It's hard to explain, but just know if you've tried doing multi-room captures, things tend to fall apart when you move to the next room. So that's why I'm thinking this SLAM scanner has an IMU, which is a sensor that can track how you move through space. And it really helps make sure you got these sane camera poses. It's not relying purely on vision itself. And so this way I can literally walk from room to room to room, and it should not lose its position where it is. Now, it might not be super tight in certain areas, but if you walk around enough, it probably will just naturally get you a good result. So with that, I'm going to start out with an easy location that I scanned, and then I'm going to find, and then I'm going to end in the location I'm in right now, this room, and just walk you through a couple scans and talk about why this was impressive and why I think that you should buy this camera if you're going to use it for these sort of environments. Okay, so here's the first scan. It was that same coffee shop that I had my friend at. As I move around, this is big and open, and I can tell you I can nail this all day long with just my phone, a DSLR, nice wide angle lens. If you're using 3D GRUT, where you can use like a fisheye lens, this would be super easy, not hard, because I can see so much. It's big open area. If I'm over here, I can reference stuff over there. I can reference stuff over there. I can do a really good job. Things might get a little tough when I come in here. I even have this room. I did this. I get all this area. It's not the biggest, most complex area, but even this hallway is big. I can be referencing stuff outside, and I got this, like interesting detail area, and this is looking great. So, but what is interesting is, I think the scan took me 2 minutes, maybe less. For me to get the thousands of photos I would need to get all of this area, I would probably have been here half hour, maybe longer with the camera. and the results would be either the same or worse. And it does also a really good job with these big blank walls. Now, again, they don't look perfect. Make sure I have the settings actually as high as quality. Yeah, they don't look perfect. I didn't actually walk down here. I didn't want to scare that guy who was watching out the window. But just walking through here, it did a fairly good job. The lighting also took a drastic shift. So this room, of course, has these big windows, nice bright, everything looks great. But then when I come in here, it's like this dark lighting. So it even managed to keep things though looking somewhat even. And this is good. So let me show you the scan path like this. And so again, I started here and I just kind of like walked down this, I didn't even walk over in this area, walked down this hall, walked a little bit in there. Oh, I guess I walked a little bit over here and that's it. So I think I maybe spent 2 minutes. Had I spent 10 minutes doing this at different elevations, put it on a selfie stick, got it really high, got it really low, I would have probably got an even more detailed result. When I get a little high here, things kind of degrade. That would have been fixed if I had it on a telescoping pole. But even then, this is awesome. And if I'm doing a tour, let's say I want to annotate this coffee shop because I want to like put it on my website to get people to come. As I'm going through this, most people wouldn't be looking at the coffee shop from this angle. So things get bad down here. Well, I never had the camera this far down, but who's going to go through a guided tour at that level? They're going to be up here. So I think it's fine that you can do a quick scan at eye level, get good results, give people appreciation of perhaps the space. Maybe they want to rent this for a conference or something. Easy peasy. All right, so let's go to scan number 2. Scan number 2 was indoors at the NERPS conference, and it's the booth for Lightwheel, which again, I guess the scene, what I want to highlight here is not that I did this like whole conference floor. That would have been fun. We were in setup mode, so there was people walking around, but there's this one person who's an apparition. There's this guy here who didn't move much. He was working on his laptop. But I was able to scan our whole booth. I think I even walked around the back side. Yeah, got the Lightwheel sign. Yeah, I want to make sure I have the settings up high. Yeah, so this is looking good. What you don't see here is the magic is that there was like, I don't know, I think we had 6 guys in our booth setting up, and none of them showed up because they were just walking around me, moving around. I said, don't worry about me. These are the only 2 people who didn't really move, and so they get captured in the scene. But everyone else got automatically detected and removed, which is amazing. That way I'm able to get these kind of higher traffic areas and get an indoor scan. And you get this, you get a lot of this indoor complexity of the scene. So again, you can say, oh, wow, we're in this big conference area. There's tons of occlusions here. There's these screens. I have these. You can even read the text on these, which is pretty cool. And again, I'll show you the scan path. I just walked around in a loop like so. And you can see I just did as many loops and circles because I watched the tutorials. They say you want to make as many loops as you can, which makes sense. So I came wide, I came in, I even came back here. I did 1 loop around the back. And this looks pretty cool. And look, I get, Amazon, you can see Google, you can see all the other people, Grok, you can see everyone around us. We got some interesting things. And then I even put online, you can change your view. So I'm going to change it to an avatar and bam, I got this guy and I walked around. So this is where I'm talking about like the simulation component. You could do a simulation of this scene, and he even jumps. And he's got these occlusions. He's landing on things. And I think they're really accurate. Like when I jump on top of this table, he's not like floating way off. He looks like he's like literally right on that table. So whatever they're doing in their collision meshes, they're turning out really accurate. And I think that's, again, that LiDAR scanner is giving us a nice clean area. So walking around, I would also say the scale's right. Like look how tall he is compared to this guy. They're about the same height. That guy's leaning over. So the scale of the scene, right out of the box, great. So this is looking good. I'm going to show you the last one. So I could have done those last 2 scenes with the camera, probably in a timely manner. However, I have yet to successfully scan the upstairs in my house with just my iPhone or another camera without using some sort of IMU sync or something like that. Again, sometimes it really like is weird. It starts me out outside. So let me just go here. I'm going to turn off collisions. you run into this, I'm just keeping this in the video so you can see this. Bam, popped in the floor. Now we're in my house. Now we're sitting, I am actually sitting in that chair right now. And I scanned this at, I don't know, like sunset. So the light was kind of changing as I went through. And just let me turn collisions back on. I think that's important. And here we go. So you can see where I kind of work. I got a couple computers. I randomly threw some things like a ruler on there to see what details I pick up. Some stickers. I did not focus on this specifically, but I thought I'd throw some items in there. Even saw the Tesla emblem. I gotta go to settings, making sure it's quality. Okay, you gotta make sure. Sometimes the quality goes. When I first tried this, I thought it was bad. It was in performance quality, so everything looked kind of bad. I was like really sad because I didn't think this looked very good, and then realized that settings need to be set to quality. Okay, there we go. So again, there's that bed I'm talking about that was in a big occlusion. To walk around this thing and do my room, if you were to do this room with just a normal camera, I'd have to like walk all around this room, but I would never have this view. And if I want this view, the secret to getting that view would be the last thing I capture would be standing on that bed, messing it up and capturing across the room. But I didn't. But let me show you how complex this room gets. So I walked in here. Here's my bathroom. My wife's going to kill me for showing you my whole room. There's this mirror, which actually turns into its own space, which I think is interesting because it doesn't know how to handle mirrors. That's something to watch out for. If you have a mirror and you have a room behind that, you might be projecting a room into a room. So be careful of that. I have this little bathroom. I have this hallway. And so going from this room to this room, now I can't see from this hallway. I can barely see into that room. So if I want to connect these two with just a standard camera, that gets incredibly tough. And there's not even a lot of textures or anything in here. So this is why I fail. Every time I try to do this, I fail coming through this portal. The best way I can do it is open up both these doors, but most rooms don't have that double swinging door. And then it's going to fail. And then again, look at these walls. They turn out beautiful and there's almost nothing to them. There's nothing special about them with texturing. It did a really good job. I even got my kids' playroom. Classic. I've done this room a ton of times. Always in a state of mess. Guess what? They cleaned it this morning. That's what it looked like by the afternoon. So there we go. It did a really good job. I think I did a couple loops. Let me turn that on so you guys can see that. I'm going to go to settings, scan path. You can see I kind of walked around this room, kind of crisscrossed it, made sure I got everything. I mean, I even got back there. I did not put the camera back here, but again, you got to think about where people are going to look at it. But I did walk over here. Let me go. I went down the hallway. I went into my daughter's room. Told her to be really still. She was excited to be in this. Did her messy room. And look at all these details it picked up. You can even read like the posters on her wall. Did a really good job. Then I came back out and went back down the hallway. Came all the way back to my bedroom to kind of tie it all together. So you see like the big messy triangle of what I captured. I did not go over the bed. I didn't feel like I needed to. And I did that whole space. So what I'm trying to say is like this capture here, this would be a miracle. And on the scanner, they have a quality report. And I can see that quality report and show me, did I get a good scan? What areas I captured good? What areas I did not capture good? I'm actually going to put that on the screen next to me of me looking at that with my glasses while I'm at the conference at NeurUp, so you can see that quality scan. And I thought that was an interesting little addition. So the fact that I can do an inside room, the fact that I can see that I got a quality or maybe a marginal scan while I'm on site is worth the $5,000 right there. If that's what you need to scan. Now, if you're never going to scan something like that, you're just doing this for fun and hobby use, might not be justifiable. But my initial impressions is, for scanning interiors, I would not go a different direction unless I had lots of time, want to put a lot of effort into it, and an expert in photogrammetry, because you need those skills just to pull off what I did. And I walked around, this was like my 5th or 6th scan with my scanner, walked around upstairs, first shot, you got those results. There was nothing I did there. There was no multiple tries. I think I had it done in like 5 minutes, maybe a little longer. And it was just done. It looked great. And I'm sure if I had done a 30-minute scan and went high, low, got 10 more angles, I would have had even more jaw-dropping results. just want to show you my first time out of the box, just hitting up with these environments, things just worked. So with that, like, again, why would I buy this? Why is $5,000 justified here? This is an incredible piece of hardware. For $5,000, I can get the camera I'm using right here is, I think, just below $5,000. And it takes videos, takes photos, does a lot of great things. But it is a photography camera. It's actually a videography camera. This is a specialized tool for capturing Gaussian splat. So the $5,000 is a no-brainer to me if you're doing this for professional use cases, because that's actually a really small price to pay. If you come from the world of 3D scanning, you will learn that scanners easily will be 4 to 10 times that amount of money. But just know that this is a tool for people who want to do professional work and probably can monetize this thing in one job, and that's amazing. So with that, that's my first impressions. I'm going to be doing more structured testing coming out in 2026. I'm going to take it with me on a few incredible trips to some special places and share the data there. But hopefully you watching this really helps. Again, they did not sponsor this post. They are not paying for this post. Everything I'm talking about here is from me. So with that, sound off. Tell me what you liked about this, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.